May 1945, Tiger tank was renowned as one of the most formidable. Germany has surrendered. Dreams once under the German heel stands the schoolhouse where the terms of unconditional surrender are out of his sign, and the battlefield is finally quiet. Across Europe, the most feared tanks of the war now sit abandoned. Tiger I and Tiger II machines are found in fields, forests, factories, and roadways. Some are almost untouched, others are destroyed by their own crews. As the Third Reich collapses, the Allies rush to locate every Tiger they can before the machines disappear. What happens next will destroy nearly all of them, and only a tiny number will survive into the modern day. For more World War II stories like this, make sure to subscribe to No Man's Land. In the final weeks of World War II, the German Panzer forces were collapsing faster than they could retreat. Tiger I and Tiger II tanks, once symbols of battlefield dominance, were now scattered across Europe, with almost no fuel, no spare parts, and no chance of rescue. Many of these tanks never fell to enemy fire. Instead, they died because the German supply system had completely broken apart. Crews ran out of gasoline, engines seized from lack of maintenance, and entire heavy battalions were abandoned in forests, fields, and small towns as their crews fled or surrendered. What had once been the pride of German armored warfare now sat silent and powerless. By May 1945, Germany had produced around 1,800 Tigers across both models, but only a fraction still existed. Many had already been destroyed in earlier battles in Normandy, Italy, the Eastern Front, and during the retreat into the heart of the Reich. The ones that remained stood in every condition possible. Some were found parked neatly in military depots, their crews having surrendered intact. Others were discovered missing entire engines or transmissions, stripped bare for parts in desperate attempts to keep other tanks running. And many were found on the sides of rural roads where they had simply run out of fuel, their crews lighting them on fire or setting demolition charges so no enemy could capture them. The chaos of the final German retreat created scenes unlike anything Allied tank crews had ever witnessed. Tigers sat nose down in shell craters where crews tried to hide them. Others were left half buried in snow. Some had their turrets blown off completely, the result of internal scuttling charges used to destroy the main gun and breech. There were even Tigers found abandoned with radios still on, maps spread out, and personal belongings left inside. Evidence of crews who had fled in seconds once surrender became unavoidable. These scattered machines became the starting point for the massive Allied hunt that followed. They weren't just collecting tanks, they were collecting secrets, armor thickness, gun performance, optics quality, steel composition, and mechanical engineering far ahead of most Allied designs. Before the war ended, Tiger tanks terrified the Allies. After the war ended, they fascinated them. The Tiger's final days marked the beginning of a new race, the race to grab every remaining machine before the others did. When Germany collapsed in May 1945, the Allies did not wait even a single day to begin searching for Tiger I and Tiger II tanks. Every major Allied nation wanted them. American, British, and Soviet teams all understood that the Tiger was more than just a tank. It was a technological blueprint, a collection of secrets, and a weapon that had shaped the entire course of the ground war. Whoever could secure the most surviving Tigers would gain the most knowledge about German armor design, steel composition, engine layout, gun accuracy, and mechanical engineering. And so a sudden, intense race began. Allied recovery teams moved into Germany, Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Poland at incredible speed. At former German proving grounds like Kummerdorf, they found Tiger hulls in mid-construction, engines on test stands, optical equipment laid out for evaluation, and crates filled with spare parts. Some Tigers sat half-assembled, waiting for components that never arrived because German industry had collapsed. Others were surrounded by stacks of technical documents, blueprints, maintenance logs, training manuals, and armor plate specifications that revealed how these machines were built and maintained. American forces found multiple Tigers inside the Henschel factory area in Kassel, including partially finished Tiger II hulls. British units found entire heavy tank battalions abandoned in northern Germany and Denmark, some with intact vehicles and some with turrets removed by their crews. Soviet units overran Tiger positions on the Eastern Front, locating machines that had been immobilized by fuel shortages or left behind during rapid withdrawals. In Scythia and East Prussia, Soviet trophy teams even discovered complete training centers with Tigers used only for crew instruction. The condition of the machines shocked many Allied officers. Some Tigers were in almost perfect shape, clean interiors, functioning radios, complete toolkits, and full ammunition racks. Others were nothing but burned-out shells destroyed by demolition charges placed by their own crews. Several were found with massive turret explosions caused by internal ammo cooking off. Every Tiger told a different story about the chaos of the war's final weeks. The biggest challenge wasn't finding the Tigers, it was moving them. A Tiger I weighed more than 50 tons. A Tiger II weighed more than 70. Many roads and bridges in Europe could not handle that weight, especially ones already damaged by years of bombing. Special heavy transporters had to be brought in or rail cars modified to move the tanks safely. Crews sometimes spent days clearing rubble just to get a Tiger onto a flatbed. By the middle of 1945, the Allies had mapped nearly every surviving Tiger in Europe. Each tank now had a new purpose. It was no longer a weapon of war, it was a scientific specimen. The Allies hadn't defeated Tiger on the battlefield by outbuilding it. They were now about to defeat it on the test range by understanding it. The hunt was over, but the real examination was only beginning. For the United States, capturing Tiger I and Tiger II tanks after the war was not just a curiosity, it was a priority. American tank crews had faced Tigers in North Africa, Italy, and France, and many remembered how terrifying the 88mm gun could be. Even when Shermans attacked in numbers, the Tiger could destroy them at distances where American guns struggled to reach. So when the war ended, U.S. ordnance teams immediately began gathering every intact Tiger they could find. The goal was simple: understand exactly why the Tiger had been so hard to kill. One of the first Tigers sent to America actually arrived long before the end of the war. It was captured in Tunisia during the 1943 campaign and shipped to the United States for early study. But after 1945, more examples followed. American recovery teams located Tigers in Bavaria, at factory yards near Kassel, at depots in Austria, and in abandoned positions across southern Germany. Any Tiger that could be moved was marked, lifted, and transported, often by rail, to ports where they were loaded onto ships bound for the United States. The center of American testing was the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. Here, engineers examined every detail of the Tiger's design. They measured armor thickness, studied weld quality, inspected the Maybach engines, and documented the complicated suspension systems. But the most important work came through live fire testing. Aberdeen crews lined up American weapons and fired them directly at Tiger hulls from controlled distances and angles. They wanted to know what guns could reliably destroy a Tiger and what guns could not. The results confirmed what frontline tankers already knew. The standard 75mm gun on most Shermans struggled badly against the Tiger's frontal armor. Even at close range, penetration was rare. The newer American 76mm gun performed better, but still lacked the consistent power needed for confident frontal engagements. Only the heavy 90mm gun mounted on vehicles like the M36 tank destroyer, and later the M26 Persing, could reliably crack the Tiger's front from the distances American crews preferred to fight. Tests also revealed why the Tiger had been such a psychological weapon. Its optics were superb, giving German gunners clear, precise views of targets at long range. The 88mm KWK-36 gun was incredibly accurate, allowing experienced crews to score kills with frightening consistency. American engineers noted that even damaged Tiger guns retained impressive precision. But Aberdeen's research also exposed the Tiger's weaknesses. The mechanical systems were overly complex. Repairs required tools, spare parts, and training that were unrealistic on fast-moving battlefields. The fuel consumption was extreme, and the weight made it slow in rough terrain. The Tiger was a masterpiece on paper, but a burden in real war. America's work at Aberdeen showed that the Tiger's strength came from engineering excellence, while its downfall came from logistics. And these findings would influence US tank design for years to come. For Britain, the capture of Tiger I and Tiger II tanks was personal. British crews had faced these Mac. Heinz from Tunisia to Normandy, and many remembered the shock of seeing Cromwells and Churchills destroyed at ranges where they couldn't even fire back. After the war, British engineers finally had the chance to pull the Tigers apart piece by piece and learn exactly why the tanks had been so feared on the battlefield. Most of Britain's technical work took place at the School of Tank Technology and the Bovington Training Grounds. Here, engineers examined captured Tigers the same way a surgeon studies a patient. Engines were removed, armor plates were measured, and the famous 88mm gun was tested for accuracy and stability. British crews who drove the captured Tigers for the first time were surprised by the tank's smooth movement. Despite its size, the steering system gave it impressive maneuverability, especially on firm ground. The British paid special attention to the Tiger's complex suspension. The interlocked road wheels gave the tank a comfortable ride and excellent stability when firing, but they also created a nightmare in certain environments. Mud, ice, and debris often clogged the wheels, causing breakdowns and delays. British reports noted that the Tiger could dominate open fields, but could be crippled by frozen slush or heavy rain. The Maybach engine impressed test crews with its power, but they also noted its enormous appetite for fuel. Field repairs were described as slow and demanding, requiring time and tools that frontline crews rarely had. Britain's engineering teams understood quickly that the Tiger's battlefield strength came with a massive logistical cost that Germany struggled to pay as the war dragged on. Still, the Tiger earned respect. Gunners praised the clarity of its optics, and mechanics admired the precision of its machining. Boyington's Tiger I, captured Indonesia, became the centerpiece of British testing, and eventually the world's most a moose-preserved Tiger. Britain's conclusion was simple. The Tiger was brilliant, deadly, and beautifully engineered, but far too complicated to survive a long war. No Allied nation captured more Tiger I and Tiger II tanks than the Soviet Union. From Kursk to Berlin, Soviet forces fought Tigers constantly, and the Red Army wanted answers. As soon as Germany surrendered, special trophy brigades swept across Eastern Europe with one mission: seize every German armored vehicle, every tool, every document, and every tank crewman who could explain how these machines worked. To the Soviets, the Tiger was not just a weapon. It was a lesson, and they intended to learn all of it. Soviet recovery teams found Tigers in every possible condition. In Scythia and East Prussia, some were burned-out wrecks left behind during desperate retreats. Others were found in repair depots with engines removed and tracks off. But the biggest prizes were the intact examples found in German training facilities. In Czechoslovakia, entire instruction centers fell into Soviet hands, complete with Tigers used only for teaching new crews. These were almost pristine and offered the closest thing to factory-fresh evaluation the Soviets would ever get. All captured Tigers were shipped to the Kubinka Proving Ground near Moscow, the center of Soviet armor research. Unlike American and British tests, which often focused on engineering and reliability, the Soviets focused on one main question: how do you kill a Tiger? Their testing style was blunt and direct. Soviet crews lined up captured German 88mm guns and fired them at Tiger armor to understand how the tank reacted to its own weapon. Then they rolled out Soviet 85mm, 100mm, and massive 122mm guns to map out weak points and angles where penetration was guaranteed. The results helped shape Soviet tank doctrine for years. Tests showed that the Tiger's side AR, more, while still strong, was far more vulnerable than its front. They confirmed that Soviet 122mm guns on tanks like the IS-2 could smash through Tiger armor at the ranges where the Eastern Front battles usually began. These findings were handed directly to Soviet designers working on heavy tanks like the IS-3 and later the T-10, influencing hull shape, armor layout, and weapon size. The Soviets also used some captured Tigers for propaganda. A few were restored to running condition, painted with Red Army markings, and shown in military parades or films to prove the superiority of Soviet armored forces. Others became museum pieces across the Soviet bloc, from Moscow to Minsk to Warsaw. But the Soviet conclusion was brutally practical. They respected the Tiger's gun and armor, but saw the tank as too complex, too heavy, and too maintenance-intensive for real war. To the Red Army, the Tiger was a trophy. Impressive, intimidating, but ultimately a machine that Germany could not afford to keep alive. Their tests revealed the truth. The Tiger's battlefield power was real, but its survival depended on resources Germany no longer had. As the Allies pushed deeper into Germany, they discovered something even more valuable than intact Tiger I and Tiger II tanks. They found the paper trail behind them. Inside factories, castles, underground workshops, and abandoned design offices were shelves filled with blueprints, prototype sketches, armor studies, and maintenance logs. These documents revealed an entire world of Tiger development that had never been seen on the battlefield. For the first time, the Allies could study what Germany planned to build, not just what they managed to finish. At the Henschel plant in Kassel, American teams discovered partially assembled Tiger II hulls and turrets next to crates of components waiting for installation. Some were early production hulls with Porsche-style turret. Others were late production designs with thicker frontal armor and simplified shapes for faster manufacturing. Engineers also uncovered experimental track systems, reinforced road wheels, and modified engine mounts meant to reduce breakdown rates. Design improvements Germany never had time to implement. British teams searching through depots uncovered rare documentation on proposed Tiger-based vehicles, heavy recovery tanks, prototype tank destroyers, and even paper concepts for super-heavy versions that pushed the limits of German industry. These designs showed how desperate Germany had become late in the war, attempting to outgun Allied armor through sheer size and firepower. None of these variants would ever reach mass production, but the plans revealed how far German engineers were willing to go. The most valuable records were the maintenance logs found with surrendered units. Some Tiger battalions had kept incredibly detailed notes. They listed every breakdown, every repair, every engine failure, and every part that needed replacement. These logs shocked Allied analysts. They showed that Tiger units spent more time repairing tanks than fighting in them. Engines often failed after only a few hundred kilometers. Transmissions overheated, suspension wheels cracked, and crews needed large teams of mechanics just to keep a single Tiger operational. Soviet intelligence teams found similar treasures. In Silesia and Czechoslovakia, they uncovered full training manuals explaining German gunnery methods, range estimation techniques, and Tiger crew drills. These documents allowed Soviet engineers to understand not just the hardware, but the software, the German methods and training that made the Tiger so effective in skilled hands. Together, these blueprints, prototypes, and field records revealed a truth all three Allied powers agreed on. The Tiger was a masterpiece of engineering, but it demanded resources, maintenance, and manpower that Germany could no longer provide. It was a weapon designed for a war Germany no longer had the strength to fight. These documents also sparked something else, a race to preserve, test, and sometimes steal the most advanced Tiger technology before the other Allies could claim it. The competition for knowledge had only just begun. By late 1945, Allied testing was slowing down, and a new phase began: destruction. The Allied Control Council ordered that Germany must not retain armored fighting vehicles of any kind. That meant almost every remaining Tiger I and Tiger II in Europe, no matter how intact, had to be eliminated. What followed was one of the fastest mass disposals of armored vehicles in history. Across British, American, French, and Soviet zones, disposal sites were created at old German bases and training grounds. Tigers deemed no longer useful were dragged into open fields, lined up beside Panthers and self-propelled guns, and marked for demolition. Engineers removed weapons, drained fluids, and planted charges inside turrets and hulls. Many Tigers met their end when their own ammunition stores were ignited, blowing turrets clean off in massive fireballs. Violent final moments for machines that once dominated battlefields. Other Tigers became target practice. Allied tank crews fired at them to learn how to defeat heavy armor. Some holes were pounded repeatedly by Shermans, Churchills, Persings, and Soviet S-2s, until nothing was left but twisted steel. Economic recovery also played a role. Post-war Europe needed metal. Tons of valuable steel, copper, and wiring were locked inside abandoned tanks. Scrap companies cut Tigers apart with torches and hauled the pieces to mills. Local governments pushed for fast removal, too. Abandoned tanks leaked fuel and oil, blocked roads, and frightened civilians returning home. Within just a few years, hundreds of Tigers were gone, buried, blown apart, or melted down. By 1948, almost the entire Tiger fleet had vanished. Only a tiny number avoided the torch. Machines saved by luck, by location, or by museums that recognized their historical value before it was too late. With most Tiger I and Tiger II tanks destroyed by 1948, only a tiny group escaped the cutting torch. These survivors were not chosen through any careful plan. They lived because of timing, geography, or the simple fact that someone recognized their historical value before they vanished. Some Tigers were kept by armies for training. Others sat forgotten in depots long enough for museum teams to claim them. A few were so remote or so damaged that scrapyards ignored them. These random moments of luck created the handful of Tigers the world knows today. France kept several Tigers for evaluation at its tank school in Saumur. Instructors used them to teach students how German armor worked. Britain preserved multiple Tigers, including the famous example at Boington. Originally captured in Tunisia, this tank would one day become the only running Tiger in the world, restored after decades of careful work. The Soviet Union kept the largest collection. Museums from Kubinka to Minsk displayed Tigers as trophies of Soviet victory, some preserved almost exactly as they were found on the battlefield. By the 1960s, historians realized the Tiger was disappearing far faster than any other major World War II vehicle. Recovery teams began searching forests, swamps, and riverbeds for wrecks before they were lost forever. Some Tigers were pulled from frozen lakes. Others were dug out of fields where they had been buried during post-war cleanup. Most recovered examples were incomplete, but even a damaged hull had huge historical value. Today, fewer than 1% of all Tigers ever built still exist. Only one Tiger I, Boington's, can move under its own power. Several Tiger II survive, including the famous one at Le Glaise in Belgium, abandoned during the Battle of the Bulge. Others rest silently in museums across Russia, Britain, France, Germany, and the United States. In the end, the Tiger's legacy became larger than the machine itself. The tank that once terrified Allied crews now survives only in a handful of preserved examples, scattered like relics from another age. Germany built around 1,800 Tigers. Almost all were destroyed in war, scrapped in peace, or lost to time. The few that remain stand as reminders of a weapon that shaped armored warfare, not through its numbers, but through its impact. And the greatest irony is this: the Tiger became a legend only after it disappeared. The fewer that survived, the more powerful the story became, turning a rare machine into one of the most iconic tanks in